A very good evening to everyone. I'm Neha, Ambassador of Change for GETI, that is Global Education and Training Institute, founded and conceptualized by Dr. Sunita Gandhi with the vision of disrupting the education movement. We also organize pre-service and in-service training for teachers, and alongside, under the same umbrella with much enthusiasm, we also organize detox, where we invite policymakers, educators, researchers from around the world to discuss various best practices with us. And today, I'm very honored and thrilled to have with us the very kind Ms. Georgia Moneta, who is an ELF teacher based in Greece, and it's actually afternoon at Mam's End, and she's join us this evening, which is her afternoon. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me here. It's really a pleasure to be here with you. I know that you're doing great work towards uh, improving education in India and all over the world.
Thank you so much for your kind words, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, and all my audience who is watching and who will eventually watch, ma'am will be condensing her rich experience in the topic digital education, which I think has grown more important in the past 2 years, and we see it now as a future. So I think it's better that we equip ourselves with the hows and abouts and the pros and cons of digital education, and we're very honored to have ma'am help us with that. And officially, now I hand over the screen to you, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining. I'll just
Thank
add your
you.
presentation.
Um, just guide me. Can you see it?
Yes, ma'am, we can see.
Okay. So, hello. As my lovely hostess has already informed you, I'm here to talk to you about digital education, the how and the why. And let me tell you two things about myself. My name is Georgia Maneta. I come from Greece. I'm an EFL teacher in a state primary school and three kindergartens this year. And I am also a web tool lover. I think that sums up the most important things that I have to say about myself. Before beginning with the importance of digital education, let me remind to all of you. I'm sure that you're aware of this, but anyway, let me remind again to all of you the Sustainable Development Goal number 4, which is about quality education. And it has been written that SDG 4 means that we should ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. This goal, together with other 16, was supposed was we people were determined to reach the 17 goals by the year 2030. However, although we were hoping that we were making progress, things have changed. COVID-19 brought to us the emergency remote teaching, coined by Hodge and collaborators, and stressed more the importance of digital education. Um, Back in March 2020, schools had to remain closed worldwide, and this meant that teachers, even if they were experts, even if they knew few things, even they were not aware at all about how to use computers and how to teach online, they had to find a way to reach their students everywhere in order to not to disrupt education. So that's why we switched to emergency remote teaching. It was something that was not planned. It was something that had to be done, had to be implemented in order to help to facilitate the learning process. So with remote emergency teaching, people, educators, parents, families, students started to understand more and realize the importance of digital education. So, with digital education, through online lessons, through web tools, through Zoom, Skype, WebEx, etc., lessons can be made available anywhere and at any time. And I omitted saying that in faraway places, remote places, lessons could be also given through radios. Also, when we teach digitally, lessons get more engaging. It's really interesting for students who are actually considered to be Generation Z, but on the other hand, they weren't aware of the fact that they could not only play at a computer, but they could also learn with the help of a computer. It was really interesting to see that they could play digital games and learn at the same time, or understand something that was taught to them the previous day. So lessons were made available anywhere at any time, and they were getting more and more engaging. Lessons get more personalized. Educators and people of education and the students themselves call for differentiated instruction. Not all students have the same talents and abilities. Not all students have the same knowledge. So with digital education, we can provide different students with different types of teaching and different ways of learning. How cool is that? There is a variety of information. You just sit in front of a screen and you can learn about, let's say, historical event from YouTube, from Wikipedia, from a textbook, which is enriched with augmented reality, and you can get information on the same topic from different sources, which means that you can get a clearer and fuller picture of what you're learning. Of course, digital lessons can be fun because, as I've already said, you can play, you can learn without realizing it. And students get more and more engaged. I'm sure that all of you have realized that students get bored if we have them standing at their desk, not being allowed to talk to each other, in front of a book, listening to the teacher, and that's it. If they have to follow a lesson on the screen, they get more engaged because they have to be attentive to what they hear so they can click on the correct button, let's say, to have the correct answer. Apart from this, the roles of the educator, of the teacher, and the student get a bit mixed up because sometimes it's the student who knows more than the teacher and they help each other towards having the same good result they want. So students are feeling, I wouldn't like to use this word, but anyway, they are feeling more useful in the teaching and learning process. So they don't stop getting engaged and they forget about boredom that they used to experience in the past. However, we realized the importance of digital education, as I have already said, but emergency remote teaching revealed also the existing digital poverty and inequalities worldwide. What does this mean? Let's first of all have a look at the term of digital poverty. So, digital poverty, it's a lack of ICT with regards to access and use of the information and communications allowed by the technology. This definition was given by Barantes back in 2007. What this means? It means that we realized that not all people worldwide had internet access. Governments and government officials and education officials, etc., realized that not all educators and students had the necessary equipment needed to follow digital education. They, of course, we're not talking about computers. Some of them did not even have tablets, and there were lots of cases that students did not even have a smartphone where they could follow the lesson from. And also, there was a lack of knowledge. And when I'm talking about lack of knowledge, I mean lack of knowledge on the part of educators, students, and families of the students. Uh, we have been characterizing students nowadays, children nowadays, as the Generation Z, but this is not actually the case, because even if students do know how, for example, to play a video game like Fortnite, I'm just giving an example, they did not seem to know how to work on a Google form or how to work on a web tool. Apart from the Generation Z students, there were also the educators. Some of them were unaware of the existing online platforms or the existing web tools that would help them do their to deliver their lesson in a more creative and more engaging way. And apart from these two sides, educators and students, we also had parents and the immediate families of the students who actually did not realize that education, digital education, computers were there for them all, to help them learn, to help them go on with their education, to help them keep their children engaged to what they have to do at school. So a lot of obstacles had to be overcome during this emergency remote teaching. We had to, government officials had to find a way to provide internet access. They had to find a way to provide technical equipment to students who were interested, and they had to find a way to educate all the people that I have already mentioned. So, how do we implement digital education? We do understand, we have realized its importance. How do we do it? Since there are so many problems. Governments, councils, officials generally, they have to make sure that they provide fast and reliable internet. I will not mention for free, but at very low rates to all. This is the first important step. The second one, of course, is governments, officials, educators, parents, teachers associations, etc., should make sure that every student attending a school should have at least a tablet, not a computer if that's not possible, or a smartphone in the worst scenario. And we should also make sure that all teachers, students, and parents become educated on web tools, their importance, their way of teaching, their way of helping students and educators, so that all get ready for the future. And we should not forget the fact that even if we overcome all these obstacles, even if all the world is provided with fast and reliable internet, even if all the students in the world do have a smartphone or a tablet, even if all the teachers and families and students are educated on the importance and the necessity of digital tools and how to work on them and how to work with them, there should always be a budget allocated to the maintenance of the technical infrastructure. We're talking about equipment that needs to be maintained and needs to be changed from time to time. We talk about internet infrastructure. We talk about new web tools emerging every day. So it's not just that we give the people something and this is the end. A budget should always be there to make up for the needs that will always arise. So, provision of things, but also a budget allocated. I would also like to stress the fact here that digital education is a must and should be a must and and all parents, families, educators, and students should understand and realize and accept the importance of digital education in their lives. Uh, but we have not finished with that. There are also new terms and new realities that emerge and take place in our educational systems worldwide. We have augmented reality and virtual reality, which have emerged in the education field and which call for fast implementation. Why? Imagine that your kid is learning something about the solar system, and imagine all of the students in one classroom having their tablets with, I'm just giving a simple example. They have their tablets with an app which allows them to see the simple the solar system live 3D models. So they just hear and they can see what Mars looks like, what Earth looks like, or what even the sun looks like. Don't you think that in this way students will better remember the planets and what they are like, which planet is the biggest and which planet is the smallest? But this reality, this augmented reality and this virtual reality needs more, a higher budget, needs more educators, needs more education, needs more tools. So I'm repeating that it's not only a matter of realizing that digital education is important. We should make sure that we realize it. We should make sure that we are ready to implement it because new terms are coming. They are here. They are here already. Augmented reality and virtual reality, and also McKinsey back in 2018 found out that artificial intelligence will be used by about 70% of firms globally by 2030. That is in 8 years from now. In 8 years from now, most firms globally will be using artificial intelligence, will be using an artificial secretary, will be using chatbots. Who is going to operate these machines if our students are not educated through this way, through digital education? Before closing, I would like to stress the fact, and I know it's a common saying now. It's not me that has said it first. That since we are moving towards the future, by not teaching our students digitally, we are holding them back by teaching them only by using the blackboard or the whiteboard or the textbooks that exist in our school. We are not leading them towards the future. We are holding them here in the present. And this means that we are depriving them of their future. And if we do want to make sure that nobody is left behind in matters of education and in matters of future job, we should make sure that educators, students, families get the proper education in order for them to start and learn digitally. This is the best way. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for that very wonderful, informative, short yet crisp, very informative presentation that you just gave on digital education. Thank you so much for highlighting your thoughts. But while I was going through the presentation, I had one question in mind that, and I think this would be especially relevant in the context of India, I think. So if you could help us out here, is the importance of teacher training, so that teachers are able to use these digital tools and assist students in taking their education a step ahead. So because teachers, again, I would say in the context of India, are very not enthusiastic or participative in these digital tools. I think it's also because there's so many tools and it's so difficult to navigate all of them or maybe different rules for different tools, and then there's so many rules for teaching, assessment, social emotional learning. So what would be your take on overwhelming teachers with these tools, and thereby training them as well, so that they're able to better assist the students?
Actually, no one started as being expert in something. I, I, I don't consider myself an expert on web tools anyway. I started by seeing first, let's say, one tool and said, oh, that's an interesting one. Let me start using it with my students. Oh, yeah, this brought good results. Um, the teachers in India and everywhere else should not be afraid. First of all, they should not be intimidated by the new things, because the new things are here and we have to be ready for them. They should never be afraid or scared, let's say, or ashamed to ask for help. I'm sure that someone knows better and more things than me, so I would always go to ask them for their help. They should try and test out one, two, or three, let's say, web tools at the beginning, and if they feel comfortable with them, they should move on to more. Because someday they might even lose their jobs if they are not aware of these web tools, or the most important and the worst scenario is that they might lose their students, not because their students will leave school, but they will get bored. As I said, if we hold our students back, it's actually Generation Z. No matter how experts they are the digital natives today. So if we don't teach them the way they have learned, we are going to lose them. So I would ask them to flow with the tide, not to be afraid. Start with one or two web tools, and I'm sure they will definitely feel the magic in them.
Absolutely. That's a very wonderful thought for teachers, I think. And teachers, I think, who are watching will be able to take away much from it. One last question before we wrap up is,
Okay.
since you're an expert in digital education, what would, could you give us some criteria to judge which tools to use? Because since the market is overwhelmed with so many tools, what are some things that we should keep in mind before selecting the tools, keeping in mind the needs of our students and the needs of the school, the budget and all that? So what are some basic pointers we should keep in mind, as educators maybe, or I think even as individuals, if I have to enhance some skill, what are some tips that I should keep in mind?
Okay. First of all, we are looking for free web tools. That's a very important criterion, I would say. For me, they should be quite easy to use. First, for the educator, and secondly, for the students, because they both need to understand something, how it works, so that they go on. There are amazing tools that the school or the school district can pay and provide the whole staff and the whole educational community, let's say, with. So first, I would say money for value, and if it's not free, and simplicity and easiness. We don't need to overload our minds and our students' minds with something which is really, really not understandable. Just keep it short and simple, as I said, for my presentation as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think we should all learn from you in that regard. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us all the way from Greece and educating us about digital education, something I think we
Neha, can
need.
I add something before
Yes, please.
going
Yes,
on?
absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I chose this day today without any reason, but today I found out that the European Commission is holding an event about the digital action plan they are running. The
Beautiful.
European Commission have set up an action plan which will take us towards 2027. And
Okay.
their goal is actually to educate everyone and to make everyone realize the importance of digital education. So this is really
Absolutely.
important. This is happening today. Experts from all over Europe are discussing about the importance and discussing about the future of the jobs. We have to teach our students, because uh, jobs are always created, and we are
Absolutely.
not providing them with the skills needed yet. So we should always keep this in mind as well. We teach them for the future, for their future. I'm sorry for the interruption. I wanted to say that.
No, I think that's a very beautiful point you've raised, because I think the stars are also with us. I think the digital education movement has started, and there's no going back, since
Exactly.
because it wouldn't have been possible for you and me to connect on this platform and be able to,
Exactly.
give out our views without digital education. So I think, once again, I would say there's no going back, and we just have to,
True.
educate ourselves more and more about this. And we're very grateful for you today for joining us and educating your bit about, extracted from your experience. So
Thank
thank you
you.
so much, ma'am, for joining us,
Thank you for
and love
having
your
me.
presentation. To the point, informative, and so crisp. Thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And have a good day, and I'll see you around again.
Same to you.